All right, folks, yesterday, late last night, the great Nancy Wilson died at the age of 81 in her hometown in California. Of course, she was a Grammy-winning pop jazz platinum artist and top concert performer. She had been battling a long illness. She leaves behind two daughters and a son. Here's some vintage footage of Nancy Wilson.
My love has no beginning, my love has no end, no front or back. My love won't bend, I'm in the middle, lost in a spin, loving you, loving you. And you don't know, you don't know, you don't know, you don't know how glad I am.
All right, folks, joining us right now is Devra Levy, Nancy Wilson's manager, and Dr. Stephen Lewis, curator of the National Museum of African American Music in Nashville. Devra, I want to start with you first.
Okay.
Nancy Wilson, of course, just an amazing artist. How long were you with her?
I was with Wilson for over 30 years. My husband, who was her original manager, started with her in 1959, and he was her one and only manager until his death in 2012, and that's when I took over. But all those prior years, I was her publicist.
And what really stands out the most when you think about Nancy Wilson?
When I think about Nancy, I think about a woman who had such great warmth and class. She was such a giving spirit, not only to her family and to her friends and the people who worked with her, but to her fans. She almost never refused a request for an autograph or a picture backstage. She was just very, very supportive of everybody around her, and I will never forget that. And a classy woman. She had such grace in the way she handled herself.
I think, first of all, you're absolutely right. I met her, of course, when she was performing at the UNCF Gala in Chicago several years ago, and that's exactly. Anytime you talk about Nancy Wilson, I mean that's what you always could think about was grace. You would think about the silver hair. You would think about being elegantly dressed, and obviously a smooth voice.
Yes, yes. She dressed well, even when we'd go shopping or something. She didn't ever want to disappoint her fans. So she wouldn't, she wore these great, like, jogging suits, velour and, stylish clothes, even when just out at the grocery store.
When you talk about her music, look, she wasn't a pop star. She wasn't, sort of in that category. But when you look at the great artists, many of them had great appreciation of her and her singing style, whether they were gospel singers, whether they were pop singers, whether they were R&B singers.
Nancy was her own woman, and she insisted from the first day I started as her publicist on being referred to as a song stylist. She could take any song from any genre and make it her own if it spoke to her. And that was the criteria for song selection. The song had to mean something to her for her to sing it.
Stephen Lewis, again, you're the curator there, the National Museum of African American Music in Nashville. Just your thoughts on Nancy Wilson.
Well, of course, we're very saddened by her passing. Two important things about Nancy Wilson. The first one is, as an interpreter of songs, she was a master of using very subtle manipulations of vocal shading and inflection to convey a really powerful, really powerful emotions to the audience. And you see that in performances of songs like "Guess Who I Saw Today," for example. The second one being that if you look at Nancy Wilson in historical context, she really is, I think, an important bridge between the jazz singers of the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, like Nat Cole and Dinah Washington, and the pop and R&B singers of the 1960s and 70s. So really what she was able to do through her work is to translate that elegance of, say, that generation of Black entertainers for a new generation of listeners. So it's really an enormous contribution that she made through her work.
What were some of your favorites?
So my favorite Nancy Wilson album is Nancy Wilson and Cannonball Adderley. As a jazz fan, I think that she really does a wonderful job both working together with Adderley's band and also improvising on the melodies of these songs she's interpreting. And there's just a really beautiful interplay between her and the musicians on that record that I really love.
Devra, she was sick for the last several years. When did she last perform?
I believe it was 2011. It's been a while.
So she hadn't performed since 2011.
I believe that was her last performance in 11, yeah. But it had slowed down considerably after, I would say, 04.
And that was all due to illness.
It was due to illness. It was also due to her husband's illness and fatigue, basically, and just getting worn out.
Now, you shot some video of Nancy in 2009. You shared it with us. Guys in the control room, go ahead and roll that.
There were 2 or 3 cars parked under the stars, a wine street. Oh, shining down on certain town, and with the steamer and the same old dream, and every summer, every day, I thought about you. But when I pulled down the street, I really felt blue. I got into the crack and looked at the track, the one leading back to you.
All right, then let me get the final thoughts from both of you. First off, Stephen Lewis.
Well, as I mentioned before, a really great and distinctive talent has left us. And I think, all of us owe her a debt because of her contributions to American music.
Devra Levy.
Well, I think that our audience has been saying it best on all these comments they're posting. She gave them inspiration. She gave them solace. She gave them the confidence to go and do and be what they wanted to do and be. And like I said, she was the most giving spirit I think I've ever known. I'll miss her terribly.
Devra Levy, we sure appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Dr. Stephen Lewis, thanks a lot as well.
Thank you.
All right, going to go to Ben Chavis.
Yeah, speaking of her giving spirit, what I hope for the record people know that Nancy Wilson was a very strong supporter of the civil rights movement. She contributed. I remember in 1993, I was the head of the NAACP. She did a whole fundraiser for the NAACP at a time, and the NAACP was facing financial. She really went out of her way. So I just want people to know, yes, she was a great singer. Yes, she was a great entertainer, but she also was a great freedom fighter.
Julianne?
She will be missed. Her voice is indelible, and I mean, so many of us have used it in messaging. I remember cutting some brother to the curb by playing "Face It, Girl, It's Over," as opposed to telling them anything. Just said, listen to that. But guess who I saw today? A classic. So many classics that she offered us, and the civil rights legacy and what she did with the United Negro College Fund as well is very important.
Yeah, just to echo you, she had 2 booming voices. One was in the civil rights movement, and of course her instrument as being her voice. I got to love her music when I was in high school. I was a saxophonist, and I was in love with Cannonball Adderley's music, and so I've been listening to her for years. And her contribution to music in general, as my granddaddy would say, they don't make them like that anymore.
Not at all.
And so she will be dearly missed.
All right, then again, folks, Nancy Wilson dies at the age of 81. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. You want to write this website down, marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org, and I'll tell you why. As we transition to the holiday season, this is the time we start thinking about giving and sharing, and sometimes the best gift that you can give someone is an opportunity that could potentially change their lives. That's why the folks at Transatlantic Real Estate have an opportunity. They've created an investment opportunity for the everyday investor, which it involves legal marijuana and crowdfunding. Now, we all know that legal marijuana has created one of the fastest growing industries in the country, multi-billion-dollar industry. We also know that crowdfunding makes it easy to be an early investor of an opportunity. But it gets even better. Transatlantic Real Estate is different, and they have a business model that is simply to understand. They buy land that supports marijuana grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. Now, what that means is you would be investing in the landlord of a licensed marijuana farm in a high-growth market. You can invest as little as $300 up to $10,000 before the company goes public. Now, here's some more good news. They've extended their offer, which means you still have time if you take action now. Now, keep in mind, you must complete and confirm your application to participate, so be sure to complete the process. Don't spend all of your money over the holidays and end up with empty pockets. Instead, you can get a return on your investment. You can also consider making an investment for someone else. All you got to do is go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org for you to get in the game. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.